Well, Professor Emeritus Deborah Ballard-Reisch and Victorine Mbong have edited an anthology with 27 contributors from 3 continents titled Motherhood Honesty. The book will be launched on the 8th of March, which is International Women's Day. The authors are mothers, grandmothers, daughters, and so much more. Such a big collaboration has never been done before in the name of motherhood, and the contributors are from Johannesburg, Pretoria, Potchefstroom, Cape Town, Matatiele, Emalahleni, just to name a few, really. Saudi Arabia, Cameroon, and Colorado. The editors join us now to tell us more about the book. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. I want to start with you, Dr. Ballard-Reisch, as a co-editor in this anthology. I think for me the big question was, the why, the big why. Why was it so important, to get these honest and compelling tales about motherhood out there and in the world?
Well, this book is really Victorine's vision. And I saw her call asking for authors, and I had a story that I wanted to write. And so I wrote the story. And she asked me to review a couple of other stories, and I was delighted to do that. And before we knew it, we decided we had to be partners in this initiative. To me, the issue is that women often are silenced in many cultures, and they don't tell their stories.
Yes.
And motherhood is ubiquitous. We all have mothers. We wouldn't be here without mothers. And yet, we don't tell our stories, so women often feel like they're alone. They're the only person who's ever experienced what they're going through. They're failing on their own. No one else has ever failed the way they have. And so we thought it would be incredibly valuable to start sharing real-life stories from real-life women so that women could recognize that they're not alone and so that others could understand what motherhood is really like.
No, absolutely. Victorine, maybe just share with us the vision that you had for the book and why it was so important to get these stories out there. And I suppose even talk to us about the scope of it all. It's so compelling, the fact that we have stories from 3 different continents being collated in this anthology. So talk to us about the vision that you had.
Thank you for the opportunity, and hello to the viewers. It came up during lockdown, when South Africa was getting in and out of lockdown.
Yeah.
I am by profession a parenting coach. And just the first 21 days of lockdown, I had a few calls of people telling me how, Victorine, we did not appreciate the work that you do. Right now, we are stuck with these children at home. We don't know what to do with them. And I was like, you wish you had listened to me, in a very sarcastic way. And I meant it, because I also was in agony, but people thought I had it all, So as time evolved, I read an anthology that a woman had sent for me to review, because I'm a publisher and editor also. And when I read it, it was talking about widows who were talking about how their husbands died. I called her, I'm like, Sis Nandi, I am going to put together an anthology on parenting.
Right.
Motherhood didn't occur. But now when I started dissecting, I realized that if I do parenting, I'll lose the vision. I'll lose the voice. I realized that African women, it started off as African women do not have a voice. Their stories are not documented. I'm a fan of research papers. When I read research papers, I really see very little on Africa. If I see it, it's on the vulnerable groups. So I was like, but what's happening? So I launched the call, and when people started coming on board, I realized it was bigger than South Africa. It was bigger than Africa, and it was bigger than me. Long-term goal for this is to let mothers hand over their voices to their children, to people that they know. Because African women, global women everywhere on planet Earth, they go through the same challenges in one name. And the same challenges in different ways, but in one name, motherhood. So if we can unite in that word, motherhood. But for me, again, the aspect of honesty on the book is very, very important. The reason also is because we've had so many fake mothers. I've been fronting myself. I've been proving to the world that I'm raising 4 children. I'm succeeding. But I'm not. I'm not. A lot is not going well in my life. So why can't I be honest and tell the next younger woman, the next older woman, the next sister, the next man, that motherhood is very, very lonely.
You said something so striking, Victorine. You said, I'm in agony, but it looks like I have it all together. And I get the sense that with motherhood, there are so many perceptions, right, that society has about what motherhood entails, what it ought to look like, what is a successful mother, you know, what does it look like? And I'm wondering if what the book is also trying to do is create a safe space for mothers to be able to say, I'm in agony even though I look like I have it all together. I'm actually struggling to be this idea of what a mother is. And I know, Dr. Ballard, that you are, you know, you specialize in gender issues and family issues. Talk to us about those ideas. And I want to get a sense from you as well, Victorine, on how you see some of the ideas that society have as being problematic when it comes to the perception of motherhood.
I think one of the perceptions is that mothers are perfect, that we know how to do everything.
Right.
And so that's the persona that we tend to play in public. And what this book allows us to see is what's behind the surface. It's not always easy. There's not a manual on how to be a good mother. There's not a program to follow to be a good mother. And every single child requires a different mother. You know, so you can't even figure it out with your first child and then you know how to do it with the rest of them, because that doesn't work either. They're all so different. And so recognizing that we can't just portray the positive and pretend everything is fine, that it's important to be able, for mental health, for physical health, for emotional health, to be able to say, sometimes this is just really hard and I'm not good at it. And sometimes I'm rocking this and this is what I did that rocked, you know, so that we really get the full spectrum of emotions and spectrum of experiences of mothers.
Right, absolutely. Victorine?
You know, this book, the first few stories that I read, I cried, I laughed.
Wow.
I was confused. I was happy. I was sad.
All of it.
All of it. It was so mixed. And I'm talking about like the first three, right? What this book has, like Deborah has said, is a collection of values, a collection of cultures, a collection of nothing that mothers go through. But a ceiling factor for the vacuum that motherhood holds for many. And again, if we're talking about the struggles that women go through, this book cannot cover anything. But what we are looking at here is taking you into the private room of a woman. When you talked about the vulnerability, we were laughing at each other because yesterday I said to her, I've worked on many projects, but this one is not intimate. This one is like I'm within the authors. It's like I'm with them, because intimacy is they have let you in, but this one I am in.
Wow.
Because it's so honest. The journey that we went through with these women, one of them actually said to me, I had a box of tissue by the time I finished writing my story, but every time I read it, I still empty a box of tissue. And that is my story. Not to say the stories are sad. Not to say they are sad. They are mixed emotions. You know, but they are reality that people do not talk about. So for most of us, the crying was that this is me talking about my story. Because some people wrote about their mothers, like me. I wrote about my mom, right? But I still cry. So why am I crying? I'm not my mom. I still laugh. Why am I laughing? I'm not my mom. I'm my mom's child. You know, so it was just the fun of it, the enjoyment of finally creating a space where you can talk about motherhood in an honest way. For me, that is it.
Something that's very special about this book is the fact that it spans across so many regions, so many different nationalities, and so the key word that I get from this is diversity. It seems as though you worked really hard to mine out as many stories as possible, but also as many different stories as possible. And I suppose in doing that, help the reader see that they're really not alone. So talk to us about that journey of, you know, deciding that, you know what, we're not just going to keep it to this region. We're going to try and make it as wide. We're going to cast the net as wide as possible for this anthology to take place. I don't know who wants to go first.
I think I should go because I did the first call. Like I said to you, it was African women, and it was South African women at the beginning.
Yes.
But you know, when something goes out to social media, I would put it on my status, and people on my status would say, can I contribute? And this person is not in South Africa. And I would go like, Then I said yes. I came back to the office, my assistant and we talked about it, and I said to her, you know what? Motherhood is the same everywhere. If we limit it to South Africa, we're going to really lose out a lot. Let's accept the people that are coming from outside. And that is how we started taking the calls from outside. And I promise you, it brought a complete different diversity to this work, in the sense that even me, my load became lesser when I knew that Prof here is also going through the struggles of motherhood that I am going through. So automatically for me as the editor, my load was reduced in my personal capacity as a mother at home. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Absolutely.
And the same thing for my colleague, the same thing for Prof when we got connected. And she learned so much. She even learned the word food tech, and she doesn't know what it is.
Okay.
So, you know, like, it was just so nice that she got swallowed into our culture. We got swallowed into their culture. We've got 3 contributors from America.
Yes.
So we're also learning what the people, and all of them are professionals, what the professional woman is going through, that my own mother, who was a housewife, is also going through, and who was in the middle of Africa, you know. So for me, I think the dynamism, like you have used the word, is key to this, but also the values that the women have shared will shape every mother, no matter your age. Grandmother, mother, grandchild, sister, auntie, father, you would not believe who've had the most interest from men. So the book is also for fathers. It's not just for mothers.
No, absolutely. We are, of course, having this conversation because on the 8th of March, it is International Women's Day. And I'm curious to hear from you ladies how you think this book is going to impact the work that women, men are doing today to better appreciate women, to, you know, help move women's rights forward. In South Africa, we have a particularly devastating problem with gender-based violence. In fact, just before you ladies joined us for this conversation, we had one of our reporters detailing a story around gender-based violence in not so far away Soweto. And so this is a huge, huge problem in this country. And so when we're having conversations about women-centered conversations, not just because it's the 8th, right? The greater dialogue is, how is this going to shift things? How is this going to change things for the better? And I want to know how you believe this book will do just that.
I hope 2 things happen from this book.
Sure.
I hope that women read it and recognize that they're not alone, and then find the power to claim their own voices and their own stories, their own motherhood journeys, whether they've chosen to be mothers, not be mothers, to claim their voice, to claim their story. And I also hope that what happens is that this is read much more broadly, and people recognize, as you said, the work that is motherhood, the joy that is motherhood, the pleasure and honor that is motherhood, the trials and tribulations that are motherhood, and that it starts a larger dialogue globally, but certainly locally, nationally, of people really talking about their realities, really sharing their experiences, rather than just presenting that public face that everyone expects them to show. I think it's important for mental health for people to be able to say, sometimes whatever I'm doing is hard. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. Sometimes I need help. And culturally, in most cultures in this world, that's a hard sell. People don't do that easily. And we want to bring, with this book, that conversation into the public arena. We want people publicly to be able to say, this is my reality. And that's probably the most powerful thing about this book, is the incredible honesty and openness with which these authors share their experiences. And I think it will lead to discussion, hopefully in college classrooms, hopefully in book clubs, hopefully with friends across lunch. I hope everybody talks about this.
No, absolutely.
And it's just the start. Because in 27 stories, you don't get all the diversity that it takes to be a mother. There are voices that aren't here, but those voices are necessary too. So I hope they find the power to claim them.
Absolutely. Victorine, I just want to give you just a moment just to tell us your thoughts on the question at hand.
I'm actually itching to say that gender-based violence comes from the background of lack. It comes from the background of emptiness, you know, where one of the partners, and I'm not going to say the man or the woman, because violence is usually coming either from one end or both ends, right? But it comes from a position where one of the parties that are involved, if not both of them, feel emptiness in them. They feel lack in them. This book, I hope, will fill the vacuum that has been created by society in many people. You know, my dying question in here is, has motherhood been filled by society? You know, and once you can respond to that question using this book, you will achieve a lot that will help towards the fight of motherhood, of the gender-based violence. Because this violence comes from homes where children have been raised by mothers. It comes from men who have been raised by mothers, women who have been raised by mothers. So once society really looks at how motherhood has been positioned currently, a lot will change in the way that violence is portrayed or being seen or executed.
Wow. Ladies, I don't know how anyone doesn't pick up this book after this conversation, but thank you so much for joining us to talk about Motherhood Honesty.